Good morning. You're still watching Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1, and I'm Regina Manyara. As we had alluded to, after having, to listen to the leaders there talking about where we find ourselves as a country under this new administration led by none other than President William Ruto. Now we shift focus and talk about matters of high cost of fuel. In the next less than 11 days, so to speak, EPRA is going to be doing a review of the fuel prices. Currently, super petrol goes for 179 shillings per litre, while diesel fetches 165 shillings per litre and kerosene at 147 shillings per litre. The question is, why the high cost of fuel? And this morning I'm joined by none other than independent oil marketers and distributors, so to speak. And it is their moment to help us understand why we find ourselves in this predicament. I'm joined by Joseph Karanja, who is a chairperson of the Kenya Independent Petroleum Distributors Association, KIPEDA, as well as the chairperson, Irene Kimathi, of Mount Kenya East Petroleum Distributors. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Let's start off with the big elephant in the room. Why are Kenyans paying for so much at the pump? We start off with Madam Irene.
Yeah, basically, currently the international prices are high, though they are dropping. Also, our fuel sector is really overtaxed. We pay a lot of levies and a lot of taxes. And sometimes also we will look at the market of the neighboring countries like Uganda and Tanzania, and the government will always want to make the prices go at almost one level with the neighboring countries. But basically what causes us to pay high prices on fuel is because of the taxes. The cost of buying fuel is not as high as the levies and the taxes that we pay.
For you, it is the taxes and the levies. Mr. Karanja, do you concur a view of a divergent view in regard to why are we paying for so much at the pump?
Yes, that is the main cause, and we have tried to talk about it. We have tried to press, because there are so many levies. Petroleum is charged about 9 different levies. Some of them are really just punitive, and they make the price of this product to go very high. We are still not done with the government. We are still trying to push them. We are trying to use whatever avenues that we can get so that they may look at the taxation again. So otherwise, without the taxes, the
then
fuel
would have affordable cost of fuel. So if you're given an opportunity to actually, try and harmonize these taxes and fuel and taxes and levies, what would you go for, Madam Irene?
Okay, in the whole outlook, our economy is not very bad. It can be able to carry the cost, because when the international prices go down, the cost definitely will go down. These levies and taxes have been there, but now because of the international prices and the war in Ukraine and Russia, the prices have gone up. But now what you don't look at, because when a client comes to our stations and finds the prices, the feeling is like we are the ones that get the whole chunk of money, and it's like we are the ones that have raised the prices for them. Whereas when the prices are as high as they are, we are the ones that are suffering most. And in a time when the country is needing a lot of money, the tax money also is looking at the fuel dealers to finance the government. And therefore, you're finding that fuel dealers are really grappling with a lot of demands from the taxman, expecting this fuel dealer to be able to pay. Bearing in mind that even as the fuel has gone up, our margins that were done, the proposals were done 3 years ago, have not rised. There is cost of inflation and cost of capital. Our margins are still the same. Some few months ago, we have not been making any margins at all, even in a time when the government was really trying to harmonize the prices by bringing subsidies, which are also bringing our sector down, we as individuals. But the public outlook is that the prices are high. All the same, as much as they are high, for us, we are suffering. Some of our dealers, for the last 5 months, they have not been paid for the subsidy money. And subsidy money is not loan you give to government. It's not a loan they'll pay with interest. is money given to the government. You don't know when they are going to pay back. And when they are going to pay you back, they don't pay with interest. So you're finding that our people are really struggling because of working capital. Their money is held. They cannot be able to plan for their money because every time they bring fuel, for now, the government is subsidizing diesel. So every time they bring their money, their fuel, the money is held. And our business is high intensive capital. So we would want to request also that the government shall ease the way of our doing business, because when everybody has money to be able to buy, there is the competition and the supply and demand will work in the market, causing the prices to go down.
Yeah. Now, there's been conversation, and I feel, especially when Kenya went through the man-made crisis, fuel shortage, and EPRA is yet to make public those retailers and distributors who decided to hoard the fuel, as well as, take their fuel outside the country. Now, to avoid such a similar scenario, Mr. Karanja, what do you think needs to be done by the regulator, especially, and government, so to speak, to ensure that we never have such a situation again, from where you sit?
I think basically what happens in this industry is that the regulator kind of works with some policies which were formulated long time ago, when there were no independents, dealers, and when the population was still low. The need, the volumes for the fuel were still very low. Now, when the population grows, then there is this liberalization, and the independents are there. You want to use the same policies which were, imported from outside by the multinationals. Then there must be a problem because of the increase of demand. Yeah.
Now, talking about, let me cut you short on that and also add this, throw this spanner into the works now. You are in the distribution business. The value chain trickles all the way from main exporters to the wholesalers, to retailers, then to the consumers. If there was an introduction of the wholesale cap, would it change the dynamics when it comes to, distribution, and also not only efficiency, but also the cost of fuel?
Yeah, as I come to that, just to clear when the independents came in and they started doing their businesses, the multinationals, the big companies now, pulled out from the mashinani. They came to the urban centers, leaving those other areas for the independents, the small ones. Yet, the small ones don't have their own. They don't import their own products. We depend on the multinationals, such that when a small crisis happens and the multinationals decide to just serve their own petrol stations, then we become very vulnerable. We cannot access these products. At the same time, what the regulator has been doing is that they call us, they table bills, they come with proposals. Like now, the profits, according to the law, the whole chain is supposed to work for about 12 shillings. This 12 shillings is divided into three. There is about 3 shillings and 90 cents for the importer, who is automatically the multinational as at now. And then there is 4 shillings for the dealer who now buys the product, the liquid, to go and sell it. But then he won't sell it in the air. He will sell it from some place. Now, there is another 4 shillings, making it 12 now. For the construction, the investment there, such that you can't go beyond that. It is the law. Yet, these 4 shillings, these 4 plus 4, is not allowed it's not given by the importer. He does not allow you to work out to get the 4 shillings, because he will sell to you allowing only for the liquid, the margin for the liquid. So you find that some of these policies are really hard on the independents, and it is what is crushing the common man.
The small, actually, when you say independents, this the small stakeholders or other players within the distribution value chain.
Right.
But then enter National Oil. Government has been working to ensure that now National Oil stands in place, targeting the small stakeholders in this value chain. Do you think that this is the right direction by increasing its allocation to National Oil? And I remember there was a conference, and you were there, and EPRA was, calling stakeholders to have their views. And I remember you saying that it's a high time that also independents were considered in the allocation in terms of, the liters that come in and such, borrowing heavily from National Oil. Is this a direction that we need to take, Madam Irene?
Yeah, it was a good policy. The problem is our parastatals somehow never work. So it's something that...
when you say parastatal, this is one.
Yeah.
You're working.
US is trying. So you find that they start today, a few days later, they don't have fuel. You can never rely on them. But the one that did that policy was a very good policy. If they can be able to return back to those days, then we can be able to work well. Yeah.
So
and we make almost the majority. We are also the ones that reach the people down there, especially when we are looking at the bottom-up economy of our current government. We should be targeting the people that are down there where they call mashinani, and that's where we are. So if National Oil could come back and import fuel for us, would be good. But even without National Oil, with good policies, because we have independent importers who are not the big dealers, who are not the multinationals, if they would just be given good playground and good policies in place, they will bring their fuel. And as I said again, demand and supply will dictate the market, and if the supply is high, the demand also, the prices also will go
down.
Yeah.
The low
just
demand
to
and
add on
supply.
that, because you asked about the National Oil.
Yes.
I think it's important to mention that because kind of right now where we are, it appears like it's just a name. The plant is there, but it's not operating. We are there. Nobody even thinks about National Oil. I think when funds are released, then the Kenyans, being who we are, maybe we talk 1-2 about National Oil, but
the situation on ground
the situation on the ground is just there. It's not working.
Thank you for that. Now being a parastatal, I'm sure that this is an opportunity, for the regulator to actually hear in as far as that was a good policy. Well, situation on ground is that National Oil is actually not playing the role that it was meant to play. Now let's talk about fair taxation, and I want to bring in the issue of withholding tax, because this is something that, has really dogged the industry, especially looking at the small players. In your view, what do you think about the withholding tax, Mr. Karanja?
Wow, this is a big problem. Recently, KRA kind of appointed most of the dealers as withholding agents.
Withholding agents. Yeah. KRA appointed. Let's have that clear.
Yes, we all received letters that from now onwards we are going to be...
they appoint without your consent.
Without your consent.
Just receive.
So you're not consulted about it?
No.
And you see that the situation at the ground is that it's quite different. They don't know what we are doing. They really don't know what is happening at the ground. Now, and because they are trying to, to squeeze some money from people who don't have, very soon I think it will just come clear to the government that what they do from their offices is quite opposite from what is happening at the ground.
Now let's debunk withholding tax when it comes to matters of distribution of fuel products, because I think we need to all be on the same page and understand, especially our viewers who are wondering what is withholding tax. Madam Irene, just take us through, when you say you are appointed as a withholding agent, what does that mean for your business?
It means now when you're buying, when you're buying, let me get it well. For example, when I'm a retailer, the government is a withholding agent. And now the government bodies, when they are buying from me, they'll withhold 6% of the amount that they are buying from me. So let's take, for example, they are buying a fuel worth 100,000. 6% is 6,000 shillings. We said the margins per liter is about 4 shillings. Sometimes it's lesser than that. So when you calculate the amount, the money we are selling at today, you're making like 4,000. But they have withheld your 6,000. So you're not making the 6,000 they have withheld. They have withheld your capital, they have withheld your profit. Basically what you do, you refuse to sell to them. Not only that now, these other big people, like the big companies, the multinationals, they are exempt from withholding. But us now, the small players, are the ones that are supposed to withhold. So after some time, KRA will come and say, you are withholding agent. How much money have you withheld? You'll say, like, nobody wanted me to withhold from them. They will tell you, according to us and according to your calculations, like one man told me, they are telling him, you should be paying 18 million. He does not have that kind of money. So it's a draconian rule that cannot work because our market is controlled. The margins are too small, even if the turnover is high. Yeah.
So in your proposal, because I'm hearing this actually, you are not given an opportunity by the taxman, that is the Kenya Revenue Authority. They appoint indiscriminately, none has shared. Are you saying here and now that KRA does not involve you when it comes to making these decisions?
No, it doesn't.
They don't.
It doesn't.
And you see, the one they are calling you
once
to tell
we
you
receive the letters, we just gather together again. We just, talk together and ask, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to... But you are telling people to give you 10 million, 12 million,
money
which they
don't
even have. So what do you expect?
Now, from where you sit, because you find yourself in this catch-22, you're already in this business, and we pray we are not going to see you backing out, because backing out is losing, and losing, that's quite an investment. What do you think needs to be done to ensure that you have an even playing field when it comes, between multinationals and independents, so to speak, in this particular distribution value chain? What do you think? What would be your recommendations, Mr.
Basically, again, based on what we see, like the government is pushing, using very old policies when things maybe were being run by very special people who were able and they were, supported from elsewhere. But now these locals, very lowly people, just trying to make a living because this is where, they can find a window. The government needs to go to the ground again. Just see how somebody in this line survives. Try to, get the data, get all the real information. Then look for a way of how to, to formulate, to get something from them. But you don't just sit in the office and use some internet somewhere and some other books and then just decide this is what is going to happen. It doesn't work like that. No, it's just like now what we are doing. We are looking for ways of, preventing ourselves from hunger again. But without actually getting the facts of how or what we can do, then it will be very hard. In petroleum business, it is very different. Very different. There is a level of business here where you can invest like about 2 million shillings for one truckload. And from those 2 million shillings, you're just going to make about maximum of 40,000. Is it 4,000 or 40,000?
40, remove transport.
Yes, then remove transport and then remove all the taxes.
The investment does not commensurate.
So you have invested 2 million, and the maximum you can get is 40,000. Then you start lessing, with so many losses along the way, because petroleum is prone to losses.
Now, ma'am, you've talked about what I'm hearing from Mr. Karanja here. As a chair, he thinks that government is putting in place policies devoid of having, all-inclusive conversations with the player. Now, Madam Irene, we have seen some Gazette notices saying that, some amendments to the Petroleum Act of 2020 might just be coming into force. What is your take, and do you have issues with some of the clauses?
When you look at the policies that are made by the people that make these policies, you really sit to wonder if they come from this country, or they've grown here, or they have just come. Why? One, independent dealers are over 50% today. So basically, we almost control the market.
In terms of numbers, but in terms of capacity...
Yeah, capacity we don't have, because
in terms of the numbers,
financially, we are not that strong.
Yes.
That means we move the economy in a big way. And fuel is a big mover of the economy. But now you find every regulator, when you come to KRA, when you come to EPRA, is like the people they sit with. Either they are very big people, or they're not in touch with the ground, or they just basically refuse to understand. Because when you look at the proposals in that Gazette notice, one, they are saying, if you operate a petrol station without a valid EPRA license, the fine is 10 million. Now, the licenses alone, they are too many. You'll take like 1 year following all the licenses. 1 year and something. And when you're followed from NCA, you're followed with the drawings, you're followed with NEMA, you take to EPRA, they'll stay waiting for a committee to sit down and pass to give you the permit. Just imagine now you're taking a loan, you're still paying the loan, waiting for them to give you the permit. Now let's go down there if you come from the very rural areas, because today we have motorbikes, they are all over. Those people need fuel. The cost of licensing alone is over 1 million shillings. This person, by the time they make 1 million shillings, maybe it's 10 years. So you'll find that person, because there is demand, they'll still set up a car pump and start selling. What happens when now the EPRA comes? Find this man 10 million. He cannot have 10 million even if he sells everything he has in this whole world. So it means people will be selling, but they will be behaving as if they are doing an illegal business. Whereas there is a market. There is room to make money. There is room to make business. And this business is what brings taxes to the government, and it brings employment to people. But you find such laws that are so draconian will cause this market not to grow. And sometimes we suspect that somebody somewhere, a big player, does not want competition. I always think in business, competition is good. If you're in competition and in the market and you cannot be able to keep up with the competition, then it's not just good for you. But for economy, competition is good. So you find such proposals. There's another proposal that if your truck is found parked in a place that is not designated, you'll be fined 1 million shillings. Now I'm trying to wonder, if the driver gets a headache or stomachache, a running stomach, and he cannot be able to move on, and by bad luck, he has parked where he's not supposed to park, then you find that person 1 million shilling. Why will that driver get that money?
That's a good question. Yeah. So now that we find ourselves in this situation, there's this with the law, what are you doing as independents to ensure at least some amendments that even the regulator and government gets to listen to your voice and correct this? Because at the end of the day, government says that it is working at creating a conducive environment for everybody to do business. Mr. Karanja, as we work towards the end.
Now, kind of, it's almost desperate. Because even when we attend those public participation forums, what we suggest is never taken in. The discussions that we do there is never even noted. What they had presented is what they will pass. They just use their public participation forums as a rubber stamp, because after the whole process, what comes out is the same thing that we talked and discussed about and sought some changes and adjustments here and there. but then you just find the same thing what you were discussing about. So for me is just kind of almost desperate.
You find yourself in a desperate situation.
Yeah. Now maybe search for like these ones when we shout and if they'll hear the voices, then the better. But when you sit down around the table to talk, they just take in what they had. I mean, they just seal what they had.
Just wonder.
What can we do? Or rather, what are you doing to ensure that you change this wheel of time, this wheel of fate?
Before I go there, let me add on what Mr. Karanja has said. I remember because fuel is charged VAT, and on the retail segment, we are really pushing to have the VAT removed. Let the government put it on top of the chain so that we can be able to distribute the 8% to the whole economy. Now,
when you say at the top of the chain, explain so that our viewers can understand.
Yeah, from the wholesale level.
From the wholesale
level. We pay there so that you can now be able to distribute it. Because now the 8% is squeezing me as a retailer. And remember, the margins are 4 shillings. When the EPRA is calculating, when they put the 8%, I expected, they put cost plus margin plus transport. Then now that's what you get. Transport, you remove the transport, you get the margin. But I expected when they put the 8%, they should put 8% because they regulate us. You cannot increase the price to push the 8% to the consumer. Now, when we went for a meeting with KRI, we told them basically it is not possible to be able to give every motorist a receipt, because VAT, you should give a receipt at the point of sale. And I want you to imagine a motorbike that has come to buy 30 shillings fuel. You are making 4 shillings from 179 shillings. 30 shillings, you are not even making 50 cents. Then you produce a receipt for that person. You have employed somebody, the receipt is money, and this person is not taking this receipt anywhere. So KRI guys told us, okay, it's not workable for you. You can be ramping up and writing it in the evening or the end of the month. But right now, the other day I was at KRI to pay because I did not issue a receipt at the point of sale. And I was like, we agreed. And they said we cannot do it, it's not doable. They were like, bring the minutes. Now, I thought what they say, they mean it. So that's the kind of problem we are having. And we are urging the government, please. Because if the government wants money, let it give us a conducive working environment and laws that are workable. Today I'm seeing Raila Odinga speak here, and he's saying there's a way you press people with taxes and they just go rogue. And we don't want to go rogue. We want to pay. Let KRI come on the ground, understand how this business works. In fact, we are proposing, let us have somebody who understands the petroleum sector from retail all through. Our business fluctuates by the day, as like the dollar goes or the international prices go. But now you find when KRI comes to assess you, they assess you after about 3-4 years. The margins we make, calculating 4 shillings today, we are making 2.2% per liter. But when they come to assess you, they give you 16% margin. They give you 22% margin. They tell you it's up to you to defend yourself. By the time you defend yourself, you're paying money to defend yourself, which is not small money. The emotional turmoil, most of our people are sick. They have blood pressure, they have heart diseases. Let the government come on the ground, understand how this business goes. We are also requesting for tax education. Why? Because most of our people, they are people who started. They did not maybe go to college. They started a small business. They saw people can buy fuel. They started selling. Now they are big. They have made money. They have big cash flows. But they don't know how to calculate this tax.
So a point where the taxman, that is a Kenya Revenue, meets especially the independents in the petroleum sector to understand each other. So maybe then this conversation would actually see the light of day. Have you approached the Kenya Revenue Authority on this?
You see, the way Madam Irene is saying, that is the truth. And because they don't have anybody who knows about what is happening at the ground, how this common man is, because you cannot compare him with the multinationals who have systems, imported systems, and they are using those systems. But where did the common man get a system? He just started by surviving, survival business. And then when he grows, he tries to just, sort himself out. But understanding, I mean, if you want to put him in the same taxation cap with the multinationals who have their systems, we don't have. Multinationals will not take 100 shillings from the fuel to do something here. They have to budget and do other things. But for us, is you encounter a challenge here, you get to the nearest shilling and sort it out. You need to understand these things. At the end of the day, what is this man going to,
Now,
to
I'll
retain?
give you at least a minute as we come to a close. We find ourselves in this situation. And from a Kenyan and a consumer point of view, what should we expect in the next 5-6 days from you're in the value chain? Are we expecting that the cost of fuel is going to go down for this month that is coming? From where you sit, what do you think? I know we are speculating, but you have been in this business. Mambo yanakaaje? Maybe ndio tuweze kujipanga 179 si shilingi kidogo per liter. What do you think? What should we expect? Siku ni 5. What do you think?
For me, considering what we have talked about and how the systems work, and we are expecting some shillings to go up, despite the fact that the global prices are still low. But considering our space, then I still think that
tuzidi kukaza kamba.
Lazima.
Madam Irene, what do you think? What should we expect? He says, the way things are, from where he sits, distribution and such, Kenyans should not, just wait with bated breath for the 14th, which happens to be Monday next week, to have an ease at the pump, that we are going to continue maybe experiencing pain at the pump. I know you're not a regulator, but you are a player within the value chain. Mambo yanakaaje on ground?
The way I looked at the market and the regulator, most likely the prices will not change or they'll go up a bit. Yeah.
Either we maintain the current, which is 179 shillings per litre of super petrol, at least in Nairobi, and 165 shillings for diesel in Nairobi, 147 for kerosene in Nairobi.
Though international prices are going down, so if they consider that, it can go down. But looking at our economy and the way things go, I don't see.
There you have it. We have been discussing the issue of the high cost of fuel and trying to understand, especially from the retailer's point of view. These are the people who are within the distribution value chain, from what they have to say in regard to why are we paying for so much for this commodity that is running our homes, running our businesses, basically running our very lives. They are quite disheartening. They are just saying that their expectations by what they have seen in the market is that in the next 5-6 days, either we maintain the current fuel prices that are at an all-time high. For Nairobi, we have 179 shillings per litre of super petrol, 165 shillings for diesel, and 147 shillings for every litre of kerosene.